Tonight, furious over a disappointing jobs report, President Trump fires the government official in charge of the numbers and the urgent manhunts in 2 states for armed and dangerous murder suspects. First, the president taking aim at the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, claiming without providing evidence the data was rigged. Today's jobs report lower than expected. It comes after the U.S. saw 258,000 fewer jobs created in May and June than previously thought. And President Trump announcing new tariffs on nearly 70 countries, sending the stock market reeling. And news at the Federal Reserve, a top official stepping down. Jonathan Karl standing by. Jeffrey Epstein's longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, transferred without explanation to a lower security prison camp in Texas. The move follows her 2-day meeting with the Justice Department. Pierre Thomas in Washington. Also tonight, President Trump issuing new warnings to Russia, repositioning 2 U.S. nuclear submarines following threats from a top Russian official. President Trump giving Vladimir Putin 1 more week to negotiate peace with Ukraine or face new sanctions. Martha Raddatz with late reporting. Breaking at this hour, 2 urgent manhunts in 2 separate states underway. Police searching for a gunman who opened fire inside a bar in Montana. At least 4 people killed. A small town on lockdown. And authorities looking for a suspect in Tennessee accused of killing a family of 4. Their baby found abandoned on the front lawn of a home. Tonight, new flash flood threats from Texas to the Carolinas after the Northeast took a pounding. New York City manholes exploding, subway stations underwater, and Canadian wildfires triggering air quality alerts across multiple states. Overseas, top U.S. officials on the ground in Gaza as the humanitarian crisis worsens. Children starving in need of food. Ian Pannell in Israel. Here in the U.S., the incredible scene just steps away from the beach. A shark fighting with a stingray, swimmers getting out of the water. Scary moments at the aquarium, an octopus injuring a 6-year-old boy clinging onto his arm and not letting go. And America Strong tonight, the special wedding vows touching hearts across the country.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Friday night. I'm Whit Johnson in for David. And we begin tonight with President Trump angry over a disappointing jobs report, firing a Labor Department official who releases the data. That report coming just hours after the president slapped new tariffs on dozens of countries, the 1-2 punch triggering a stock market slide. The Dow closing down 542 points, all major indexes showing losses. 24 hours ago, President Trump announced higher tariffs on imports from nearly 70 countries, ranging from at least 10% to as high as 40%, taking effect in 6 days on August 7th. This morning, that disappointing jobs report, just 73,000 jobs added last month, unemployment ticking up to 4.2%. And the shocker, numbers for May and June revised sharply down, losing 258,000 jobs combined. Tonight, President Trump has fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and now news at the Federal Reserve. A top official is stepping down. ABC's chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl leads us off at the White House.
Today, President Trump abruptly fired the nonpartisan economist responsible for government statistics on the job market, claiming without providing evidence that today's weaker than expected jobs report was, quote, manipulated.
Mr. President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Because I think her numbers were wrong, just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election, days before the election.
And now fired BLS Commissioner Erica McIntyre was confirmed by the Senate in January 2024 by an overwhelming bipartisan vote, 86-8. Then Senator J.D. Vance voted for her. Her firing came shortly after today's jobs report showed that the unemployment rate has risen to 4.2%, with the economy adding just 73,000 jobs in July, less than expected. The Bureau of Labor Statistics also revised the job numbers for the last 2 months, as it often does, saying there were over 250,000 fewer jobs created in May and June than previously thought.
I believe the numbers were phony.
The president claimed, without providing evidence, that the numbers were rigged to make him look bad. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified, Trump declared on social media. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. But many economists expressed alarm at the firing. worried that it is now President Trump who is trying to manipulate the numbers. And at least one Republican senator, a Trump ally, suggested Trump's move was, quote, impetuous.
It's not the statistician's fault if the numbers are accurate and that they're not what the president had hoped for.
All this after the president announced a new wave of tariffs set to go into effect next week, raising the tax on imported products from nearly 70 countries. That, coupled with the jobs report, sent the stock market tumbling today. The Dow losing 2.9% this week, its worst week since early April, when Trump's trade war began. But Trump's tariffs are now facing serious legal challenge, a federal appeals court raising questions about whether the president has the authority to impose the across-the-board tariffs without congressional approval.
John Karl back with us now from the White House. And John, the economic news today coming as President Trump ramps up his criticism against Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, and now a top official is stepping down.
Yeah, Adriana Kugler, she's one of 7 members of the Fed's Board of Governors and a Biden appointee, announced her resignation today. She didn't give a reason why, but her term was scheduled to expire in January, and her departure gives President Trump the opportunity to name a new Fed governor, perhaps giving him more influence over the Fed, and also the chance to name somebody, put somebody on the board who could be a replacement for Jerome Powell when his term as chairman expires next year.
All right, John, thank you. Now to Jeffrey Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, moved from a low-security prison in Florida to a minimum security prison in Texas. Officials have given no reason for the move, but it comes a week after Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche interviewed Maxwell for more than 9 hours. Here's ABC's Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, we're learning Jeffrey Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved to a less restrictive prison without any explanation by the Justice Department. Previously incarcerated at a federal prison in Florida, Maxwell, serving a 20-year sentence for trafficking girls to Epstein, transferred in recent days to this prison camp in Texas, a lower security facility with fewer guards and limited perimeter fencing. The move coming just 1 week after Maxwell's meeting with the Justice Department No. 2 ranking official. She'll now be housed alongside other high-profile inmates like Elizabeth Holmes, former CEO of a failed blood testing startup, and Jen Shah of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And tonight, Epstein and Maxwell's victims expressing their outrage at the unexpected transfer. The family of Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide earlier this year, saying, President Trump has sent a clear message today. Pedophiles deserve preferential treatment, and their victims do not matter. Giuffre's family telling our Lindsay Davis they were shocked after President Trump made this claim that Jeffrey Epstein stole Giuffre from his Mar-a-Lago club, where she worked in 2000.
I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people, yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
We're still reeling from the very real loss of her, and kind of the way that it was thrown out and the words of being stolen as if she was an object. That's really painful to hear as a family.
But tonight, we're still awaiting a definitive answer as to exactly why this transfer took place.
Pierre Thomas in Washington, thank you. Next tonight, President Trump issuing new warnings to Russia and repositioning 2 U.S. nuclear submarines after what he calls highly provocative statements by Russia's former president. Meantime, President Trump has given Vladimir Putin just 1 more week to negotiate peace with Ukraine or face tough new sanctions. Here's ABC's Chief Global Affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz.
Tonight, in a rare and extraordinary warning to Russia, President Trump ordering 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to the region.
A threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people.
That threat Trump was talking about, a post on social media from the former Russian president about unleashing Russia's nuclear arsenal. Trump saying he repositioned the submarines just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that, adding words can often lead to unintended consequences. The war of words only escalating since Trump took office. And so has the war in Ukraine. the war President Trump had said he would end in the first 24 hours of his presidency. More than 6 months later, it has only gotten worse, and President Trump's patience is growing thin, now threatening new sanctions on Russia in the coming days.
Russia? I think it's disgusting what they're doing. I think it's disgusting.
The president did not say what kind of nuclear submarines he deployed to the region, but the U.S. already has nuclear ballistic missile subs circling the globe. We were aboard the USS Maine in 2022 when the commander of submarine forces told us Russian subs are always being watched.
We know when there's Russians underway at all times. We track that very, very closely.
This may all be saber-rattling, but it is a very large saber. Nuclear-armed submarines are the most deadly, destructive warships on the planet. Whit?
Martha Raddatz for us tonight. Thank you. Now to breaking news. We're following 2 urgent manhunts in 2 separate states underway. Police searching for a gunman who opened fire inside a bar in Montana. At least 4 people killed. The small town on lockdown. And in Tennessee, authorities are looking for a suspect accused of killing a family of 4. Their baby found abandoned. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, an urgent manhunt for an active shooter who authorities say killed 4 people in western Montana. The Deer Lodge County Law Enforcement Center says Michael Paul Brown is believed to be armed and dangerous. They say he first opened fire inside a bar in the town of Anaconda and was last seen in the Stumptown area 6 miles away. And tonight, in northwest Tennessee, another active manhunt. Officials offering a $15,000 reward as they search for 28-year-old Austin Robert Drummond, saying he murdered a family of 4 and then kidnapped and abandoned their infant.
It appears, with all the information that we have, is that this was a targeted incident.
They say Drummond was last spotted 80 miles south in Jackson, and they've recovered his white Audi. They're urging residents to stay alert.
And Whit, as for that Montana manhunt, officials say it's not yet clear what circumstances led to the gunman opening fire. The governor says he's monitoring the situation. Whit.
All right, Trevor Ault, thank you. We're tracking dangerous summer storms. The Northeast slammed by torrential rains and deadly flash flooding. A geyser erupting in a Staten Island street. Commuters escaping a flooded subway stop by climbing along the gates. And tonight there are lingering effects of flights canceled and delayed. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, cleanup across the Northeast after deadly storms wreaked havoc, inundating roadways and swamping public transit. Half a foot of rain in some areas, geysers of floodwater erupting on this street on New York's Staten Island. Water sloshing inside city buses, a manhole exploding, and Citizen app video from Brooklyn. Subway strap hangers gingerly holding on to anything they can as they make daring escapes out of stations. Water gushing out of cracks in the walls. East of Baltimore, first responders rescuing drivers in Joppatown, Maryland. And west of Baltimore, authorities in Mount Airy say a 13-year-old boy was swept into a drain pipe and drowned.
I worked diligently to try to get him out. Unfortunately, he had succumbed to his injuries before we were able to rescue him from the pipe.
The storm strangling airports across the region. More than 1,900 flights canceled Thursday and over 800 more today.
And Whit, as cleanup continues, these storms are giving way to a massive temperature drop, up to 20 degrees in 24 hours. Also a break from that humidity. Whit?
We'll take that. Morgan Norwood, thank you. Now to the air quality alerts across the Midwest due to wildfire smoke from Canada. The Chicago skyline here barely visible, now among the worst air anywhere in the world. Smoke drifting down from more than 650 Canadian wildfires, triggering air quality alerts for millions in at least 5 U.S. states. We move overseas tonight as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza worsens. Top U.S. officials are on the ground there visiting an aid site backed by Israel and the U.S. Tonight, what we've just learned about their meetings amid an urgent push for a ceasefire hostage deal. ABC's chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, is in Israel.
Tonight, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Ambassador Huckabee visiting a controversial Gaza aid site backed by Israel and the U.S. Their trip coming as the humanitarian crisis deteriorates.
I spoke to Steve Witkoff. He had a great meeting with a lot of people, and the primary meeting was on food. And he also had some other conversations that I'll tell you about later. But he had a meeting on getting the people fed, and that's what we want.
But here's what the US officials didn't see. This is the horrific reality of Gaza. Jana Rayad is 8 years old and weighs just 24 pounds. She's been treated for malnutrition before, but now her condition is deteriorating again. Nasma says bit by bit, I feel I'm slowly losing my daughter. American pediatrician Tom Adamkiewicz, speaking to ABC News from Nasser Hospital in Gaza, calling on US officials to see what he's witnessing.
I've seen those children with my own eyes. And so I would call for the United States ambassador to come here, come and see for yourself what's going on here.
With Israel facing a diplomatic tsunami of pressure to cease fire and bring the hostages home, with major protests against the war expected in Israel this weekend. Whit?
Ian Pannell, our thanks to you tonight. When we come back, the driver killed crashing into the gate of a military base, security teams opening fire. A 6-year-old boy's frightening encounter with an octopus at the aquarium, and the stunning sight at the beach, a shark and stingray fighting it out just offshore. Next tonight, security forces opening fire on a driver accused of trying to crash through the main gate at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona. The civilian shot and killed. Authorities say he refused to stop. Security deployed a vehicle barrier. The driver crashed into it, and security shot the suspect when the vehicle kept moving. A 6-year-old boy is recovering after a close encounter with a Pacific octopus at the San Antonio Aquarium in Texas. His mother sharing these pictures of his arm covered in purple bruises. She says the octopus clung on and wouldn't let go. 3 employees helped to get the boy free. The aquarium's website says guests are allowed to feed and gently touch the octopus. We will hear from the mother and son tomorrow on GMA. When we come back, swimmers jumping out of the water during a fight between a shark and stingray, and the special wedding vows touching hearts across the country. To the index now, a jury in Florida ordering Tesla to pay $243 million for a deadly crash involving its autopilot feature. Jurors finding the company partially liable for the crash, saying the feature enabled the driver to take his eyes off the road after he dropped his phone and tried to find it. The car failed to stop at an intersection, killing a woman in a parked SUV. Tesla plans to appeal. Well, a large crowd of swimmers keeping their distance during a fight between a shark and stingray at Florida's Panama City Beach. They were spotted just a few feet offshore, the shark taking a bite out of one of the stingray's fins. The area is known for frequent sightings of both in the water. Still ahead, the groom and his big surprise when reading his wedding vows. Finally tonight, the groom and the big surprise, his unexpected wedding vows. America Strong.
Tonight, Zach and Hallie Swain and the wedding vows touching hearts across the country. The couple celebrating their wedding this summer. And when it was time for the vows, Zach surprising his bride and the guests.
Hallie, your light shines so bright. It's what drew me into you when we met.
Not only reading his vows out loud, but signing them too.
I'm so in love with you.
Hallie wiping away tears. The bride's parents, Gina and Paul, are deaf, and Zach learned sign language so they could witness and be included in his vows.
I promise to encourage, support, and believe in you.
Secretly going to night classes for 4 months before the wedding.
Even if others don't.
The moment Zach started signing and saying his vows, I immediately started tearing up. The way he included my parents made it even more meaningful, and it reminded me why I chose him, and I'll keep choosing him every day.
After the ceremony, Zach and Hallie finding her parents at the reception. Zach holding out his ASL certificate, a gift for his new in-laws, overcome with emotion. A thumbs up from Dad, Hallie's mom signing thank you, and a hug for their new son.
I actually handed them my certificate of graduation to show them that not only am I committed to Hallie for the long run, but I'm committed to our future family.
The amount of recognition this has brought to the deaf community has truly been so amazing. And for all of you that don't know any sign language, this is I love you, and you can share it with someone you love.
I love you.
Truly a special moment, and congratulations. Thanks for watching tonight. Have a great night.
David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. And now,
ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the 3rd year in a row.